Alrighty, guys, we got another Benjamin Button banger from Ben Shapiro. It's about Andrew Tate. It says, Tate, it's okay to sleep with trans women if... Frankly, I don't know why the discourse around Tate has anything else. It's really... There's only one thing it should be centralized around. It's how not good of a guy he is. As always, I'm going to have to link it in the bio. Whatever. Let's just get into the video. Let's go.
Has gained an enormous... So, folks, Andrew Tate has gained an enormous amount of popularity in the online space. But
Sure.
I have to say that his takes on issues, sometimes I think his diagnoses of American society, Western society, sometimes I think those diagnoses...
It's going to be like a goof video. You could already tell with the energy. He's going to be like just for silly.
are correct. And then sometimes he unleashes takes that are just bizarre and weird and seemingly inexplicable. Andrew Tate, as far as I know, is still being held in jail in Romania. It's unclear how that saga is going to end. He's accused, of course, of sex.
No offense. It's pretty clear how it'll end if you like look at the information that he's said himself. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the best argument you can make nowadays is like, hey, based on all the information that's out there, based on his own sayings and everything that's come out, he's probably guilty, but we should wait until everything is finished. We should wait for the trial to finish. But that's kind of where we're at. Like, there's no reasonable third person thinks he's innocent at this point based on the words he has said. Okay, so I don't really like let's not play like he might be innocent to like pander to an audience nonsense. It's silly, but okay.
Sex trafficking, of luring women to Romania and using them as cam girls and all the rest of it. But all of this is beside the point when it comes to the popularity of Andrew Tate. I've talked about Andrew Tate on the program a little bit before, and why exactly he's popular.
It's quite relevant to the point, considering like that's the central idea of who Andrew Tate is like disrespecting and using women, clearly based on the way that he has sex trafficked them. So
popular. One of the things that I've suggested about Andrew Tate is that many of his diagnoses of modern society are not entirely wrong. Many of them, in fact, are correct. But his prognosis, his recommendation of the treatment is totally wrong.
Okay.
And this sort of disconnect is strange. It becomes stranger when you see some of the things that Andrew Tate has said recently. So there was a tape that emerged on the Twitters over the course of the last 48 hours of Andrew Tate talking about whether he would prefer to have sex with a male who had had many surgeries to look like a female, but still had not had bottom surgery, meaning he still had the full male appendages, or a very ugly woman. And I think there is something kind of important about the fact that...
Well, I mean, I would want to have sex with a woman that was more attractive, and if it was the trans woman in this case, then that's the woman I'd want to sleep with.
There's so many young men who are drawn to Andrew Tate, and then Andrew Tate says stuff like this, or said stuff like this.
Yeah, guys, Andrew Tate making a comment about how he would sleep with a trans woman, that's the real danger. The sex trafficking stuff, they're talking about women like they're objects, they're talking about how he used to have a webcam, or he does have a webcam service where he would lure women from other countries that has never done like any type of sex work before, and how he would treat them like prostitutes, and how he would basically groom them by forcing them to fall in love with him, promising to marry him, then put him in like this kind of financial infrastructure, wouldn't let them leave the compound unless where he was convinced they were in love with him, so they would come back. These aren't the problems. The fact that he might have had sex with a trans woman before, holy fuck, guys. Literally, modern society is crumbling because of that. Like, can we get our fucking values in order there, Ben? What kind of a religious fucking... Like, there's no way that any, like, religious person would ever be on, like, yeah, trans woman is a destruction to society, fucking one of those. But you know what? Sex trafficking? Based. What the fuck are we talking about?
It's bizarre. It only makes sense in a particular cultural context. I want to get to that in a moment. Here's what Andrew Tate actually said.
I recently posted a question on Twitter asking, would you rather have sex with a transsexual, which is a legitimate 10, or a woman, which is a legitimate 1? And everyone's sitting there clicking woman, because they think they're going to be gay if they do anything else, but they're not actually thinking about the question. When I say a 1 and a 10, I mean Megan Fox with a d***, that's the tranny, or Hulk Hogan with a p***, that's the girl. This is the question I'm asking.
Well, they're both girls, so.
Megan Fox or Hulk Hogan. So you're thinking, well, I don't want to be gay, so I just clicked the girl, the number 1, did it? Hulk Hogan. Okay, he's got a mustache and muscles and shit. He's all hairy, big dude, 6'5".
Cool.
It's pretty gay to me. That sounds pretty gay. I don't care if it's that is gay.
Okay.
Okay, so, first of all, what?
Okay.
What? So on a variety of levels, what? So the original question that he apparently posed was, would you rather have sex with a 1 who's a woman, or a 10 on the female scale,
also a woman,
but is male?
Yeah.
And so he launches into that bizarre diatribe. Now, none of this makes any sense. If you've been following Andrew Tate at all, and if you understand how popular he is, you understand that what he largely bases his image around is this idea of uber masculinity. And the uber masculinity that Andrew Tate bases his sort of image around is he's ripped. He's very muscular. He has.
There's nothing more masculine than feminizing another man. I'm just telling you, okay? That's the true masculinity. I'm letting you know that. All right, Ben? So, technically, you're still maintaining that masculinity. All right?
A large house or a compound in Romania. He has a lot of fancy cars, and he has a lot of beautiful women, not transsexual women, but actual like biological women who he is in charge of, and he has a harem of these women. And this is what masculinity really looks like. And then you get this bizarre fetishistic video in which he's explaining that he would prefer to have sex with a male who has had many surgeries to look like Megan Fox. Then
isn't it interesting that he keeps saying like male and then woman? Like we know that trans women are not females, but they're still women, right? And you notice like this weird like language that he's using. It's just a kind of it's intentional. It's annoying. Just be consistent, okay? Like if you're gonna say one's a woman, like it's a woman. Don't you keep using like this language? Obviously, male and female. Just be consistent is all I'm saying. Like when he refers to one, when he refers to trans women, he's calling them males because that's a biological term. But then when he's talking about cisgender women, he calls them women instead of females. You notice that? That's the point that I'm trying to get at here. It's bizarre.
Attractive woman. So what exactly is happening here? Well, none of this makes any sense. And frankly, none of our modern culture makes any sense. Unless what you realize is the reason that we are seeing the death of masculinity and the death of femininity. The reason that everything is falling into this morass of sexual chaos. And he talks about it actually at the very end there. He says, oh, it's all a sliding scale, isn't it? It's all there's no such thing as gay or straight. It's just a sliding scale. The reason all of this is happening is because we have a society that has decided to discard the notion of teleology. Okay, teleology means that things were created with a purpose. Things were created with a purpose. Whether by God or by evolutionary biology. Let
me tell you something. God put the G-spot in a man's asshole. So clearly God wanted people to be gay. That's all I have to say. Yeah, that's it. What else do I need to say?
We're created with a purpose. Now, I'm a religious person, so I believe that God created us with a purpose.
So listen, if we were created with a purpose, here's my thing. When you want to get into the conversation about purpose, who's to say that there wasn't some kind of like a purpose in like trans people being created in the capacity of like, listen, if you're born in a way where you feel that you were born in the wrong body, maybe there's a purpose to that. Maybe like there actually trans people do exist. Maybe there is something to it. You know what I mean? And we've like, maybe that's the purpose. Now I know he's talking about more of like an active like God purpose that makes us all great, but I'm talking more of like a passive purpose. Like for instance, creating gay people. Like what could be the biological purpose of creating a gay person? Well, you know, so one could argue that the biological purpose might have something to do with gay people disproportionately adopting and like putting their resources into taking care of like you know, kids that are considered undesirable, or in a family unit. You know, a lot of people have that gay uncle that never got married but puts their resources into like, you know, their nephews and nieces and shit. Now I don't know what the biological purpose of creating trans people would be, but you know, to say that just because it's not typical means that it's like it's not valid. It's just weird to me. I mean, we have pretty long studied mental health shit when it comes to gender dysphoria. Just because somebody has mental health issues doesn't invalidate their existence. Like, who fucking cares? You know? But,
and what that means is male and female, he created them. Now, you don't have to believe in the Bible in order to believe that. You can also believe that evolution created human beings sexually dichotomous in order so that we are designed to reproduce. That's literally the purpose of sexual activity in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, trans people exist so I could fuck a hot chick with a penis.
Reproduction. There's the side benefit of pleasure. It is the pleasure that leads beings of all mammalian species to reproduce. But the reproduction is the end, right? The thing toward which sex is generally oriented in the animal kingdom is reproduction, because otherwise it would be no different than baboons scratching one another or something. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if male and female were created to do a thing, and if sex was created in order to achieve the thing, if reproduction and the one flesh union between male and female is the purpose of the thing, then masculinity and femininity are built around that act. Okay. What that means is that reproduction being the point of sex, teleologically speaking, not every time you have to have sex, not aiming for a baby every time, but the idea is that generally speaking,
if the second that you say that every time you have sex, you don't have to have a baby anymore, like you've invalidated your whole argument. It's very clear that we as people don't exclusively have sex to have babies. A lot of us do it for pleasure. Even if you got married first, if you have 2 kids and you've had sex more than twice, guess what, guys? You're seeing it. You're not staying consistent with this idea. Who cares if you could have kids? The purpose of existing doesn't have to just be to have kids. There are other things that exist and are necessary in our society to propagate more society, right? Like, for instance, people becoming doctors or scientists, right? If they don't have kids, they're still massively beneficial because they're helping keep people alive. There are different ways that people can contribute to society. It doesn't have to just be by having kids. And like we said before, even if you have a relationship where you can't have a kid in that relationship, like you could still be massively beneficial. Like what the fuck does any of this matter? Like
sex is oriented toward the production of human beings within a male-female context, because that's the only way biologically, historically, it has happened.
Okay.
And will continue to happen.
Sure.
Because of that. So, as I've been talking about
here, maybe one day they'll be able to put like a uterus inside trans women, and then it's over for conservatives. They won't have any excuses anymore. You know, what are you going to say then? If trans women can actually have kids, you know, with cis men, what are you going to say then? You're going to be checkmated, liberal. You're going to be checkmated, cuck-servative.
It's a weird clip from Andrew Tate. And you know what? He needs, I think he needs some, traditional values like marriage and kids. Well, I have the marriage.
Put the
VPN
VPN or whatever
and then I can't sleep at night. So that means I need coffee, like a lot of coffee. And Black Rifle Coffee helps make that happen for me. Black Rifle Coffee is fueling Americans before they go out and do epic things with their lives.
Right. So
they're ready-to-drink cans are crafted for convenience without losing quality. If you want a Spartan-level caffeine kick, try Ready-to-Drink 300, made with 300 milligrams of caffeine per can and an electrifying blend of MCT oil and amino acids that will supercharge your day. Ready-to-Drink 300 packs a serious caffeine punch backed by high-quality ingredients. It comes in a bunch of delicious flavors. Caramel vanilla, rich mocha, and more. Each unique flavor combined with a large dose of Wake the Hell Up. Ready-to-drink cans are crafted with just the right amount of sweetness to perfectly balance out the bolder coffee-forward flavors. They do it with less sugar than many similar grab-and-go coffee options. So, if you need the caffeine and you want the good taste, go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code Shapiro at checkout for 10% off your order. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code Shapiro for 10% off. You can also find Black Rifle Coffee in grocery and convenience stores near you. I rely on Black Rifle Coffee to get me through the day. You should too. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Go check them out right now. blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code Shapiro at checkout. 10% off your order. In this economic climate, with inflation continuing to soar out of control, you should be looking at your monthly bill and figuring out where exactly you can cut.
Bro, how many fucking ads do you run in one video?
Well, one place you can cut for sure is on your cell phone bill. If you're using one of the big guys, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, you're spending too much money. Instead, you should head on over to Pure Talk. Pure Talk saves the average family over $900 a year.
No thanks. I like
when they switch from Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. That's correct.
Here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with those types of services, but like if you want decent cell service, you're going to have to get like one of the big guys. I'm just saying. Also, how many fucking ads are you going to put in one 10-minute video, Ben? Jesus Christ. It gets you getting that big, huh? Okay.
$900 a year on your wireless bill and still enjoy ultra-fast 5G service. Get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $30 a month. Pure Talk is so sure you're going to love your service, they're backing it up with a 100% money-back guarantee. Stop paying a fortune to Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. Cut your bill in half with Pure Talk. Their US-based customer service team makes the switch super simple. Switching over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. You can keep your phone and your phone number, and your first month is guaranteed risk-free. Go to puretalk.com, enter promo code Shapiro to save 50% off your very first month. That's puretalk.com, promo code Shapiro.
Savings.
Pure Talk is simply
Don't
smarter.
Do another ad,
Ben,
or I'll kill you.
See site for details. Again, head on over to puretalk.com, enter promo code Shapiro, save 50% off your very first month of coverage. Male and female are built around this.
Go.
Women were built by nature or by God, whichever you choose, in order to bear children and rear them. This is their primary reproductive function. Not their only function in the world. It is their primary reproductive function. When it comes to sex, this is the purpose of sex. And for men, the purpose is to generate offspring and then to protect and defend those offspring. This is not just true for human beings. This is true for primates. This is true for literally all species that have sexual dichotomy attached to them. And so sex and masculinity and femininity were built around these roles. And that's really important because one of the things that we've done is we've exploded those roles. We've now disconnected the idea of sex from any sort of teleology. There's no purpose to sex other than whatever subjective pleasure it brings you. When you disconnect sex from teleology,
I mean, you could technically find a value in like subjective pleasure. If it could be calming, it could reduce your stress levels, right? Some people have subjective pleasure from reading books, and it really calms them. It increases their mental health. Like, who really cares? Like anything, you can get too addicted to stuff. Not books. You can't get too addicted. Well, you can. You become a nerd. But like, yeah, you can have too much of a sexual focus, which I think can make you have like a negative impact on your life. But I mean, overall, who cares? You don't have to always fuck for pleasure. I mean, for fucking babies all the time. Like, it's just silly goosery. I don't even know why we're having this conversation.
Things go wrong
anymore.
really, really quickly, and you end up with bizarre videos like this one from Andrew Tate and a lot of the other societal problems that are plaguing Western civilization these days. When you get rid of the teleology of male and female.
I just like that Ben Shapiro found a topic about Andrew Tate that wouldn't ostracize him from his very conservative audience that still are convinced that sex trafficking is based. Not all of his conservative audience, but some of them, like little dumb kids. So that he can plug 2 dumb fucking ads into the video while talking about this.
And get rid of the purpose of male-female sexual bonding, which is reproduction, and then rearing and defense of children. And those have...
It's not just sex. It's not just... I mean, listen, if your entire relationship just exclusively centralizes around like having kids, I mean, I think that's just sad. You know, love is very powerful. It's very important. Those deep emotional connections with people are very important. You can love friends. Having friends to talk to is very important. Relationships don't need to just be about sex. They can be about other things that are positive as well. So, you know, it's kind of like a weird, just bizarre fucking... I mean, like, what else would we expect from Ben Shapiro? But, you know, by this logic, guys, don't have fucking kids if you're not fertile. You know, or don't get married if you're not fertile, guys. Just silly. We saw the same dumb fucking talking point the whole time. We come to expect
sex-specific roles, because women treat children differently than men do. Women have to actually have the child in them. And women have to actually nurse the child. Women have to comfort the child in the early going, for sure. And men have to be out there protecting and providing. All of masculinity and femininity are built around these basic realities of life. When you sever that connection, here's what happens.
I totally hit that.
On the one hand, you have people who demand that now that the connection between sex and reproduction has been severed, all the rules go away. Right? You can do whatever you want, and the only thing that actually matters is sexual pleasure. But there's a problem with that. The problem is that the animal instincts remain. The evolutionary biology animal instincts remain. And those animal instincts end up making you either quote-unquote sexist or fetishistic. What I mean by this is that if you take all of the rules of tradition and you remove them from their teleological context, if you take all of the rules of marriage, which promoted, for example, chastity before marriage and outside of marriage, if you promote rules that suggest monogamy between two people, if you do all of that stuff, but you remove it from the context of, in order to create a family unit to provide for biological children, if you get rid of that, then all of that starts to sound really sexist. And this is what women are having a real problem with these days. A lot of feminists are having a real problem with this because they still have the same biological drives as women have all.
What are you talking about? Nothing that he's saying makes any sense. I think what he's trying to say is that if you effectively remove tradition, then there's nothing else. Okay. So generally speaking, I think that it's good to have like a 2-person unit to make a family, get married, have kids, because it provides a better structure. And you can look at you can look at like a lot of the data. People, when people are married, there's 2 people who are married together, they're bonded to each other, generally have better outcomes, right? So I think that you should generally do that. But what he's saying is that if you don't have religion or tradition to ground that, then that means that it just becomes a sexism. That doesn't really make any sense because, first of all, traditions can be rooted in sexism. And second of all, like, if people have biological imperatives to get married, like you're saying, then they will just do that anyway. So it's just like a really weird cope. Like, okay, sure.
Always had, which is to, actually be with a person that they trust, a man that they trust. This is the general biological drive of women over time. Otherwise, human beings would not exist generation to generation. Women have had a drive to be with a man that they trust. In terms of protecting, providing, and yes, sexual comfort, because that's true by every statistic.
So then they're going to maintain
wanting to bear children with that man. They still have those drives. But they feel that it's sexist to have those drives, and so they attempt to sublimate them, and anyone who promotes those drives is now considered sexist. Or alternatively, you end up with the fetishistic, which is what Andrew Tate is doing with this video. Because again, if sex is now disconnected from the teleology, then secondary sexual characteristics, your fetishistic idea of attractiveness, is now the only important thing about the sex. Now, human beings have been fetishistic for all of time. Human beings have wanted to have sex with a wide variety of things, for a wide variety of people, wide variety of types, for a long, long time. That's nothing new. What is new is the idea that when you separate sex from its purpose, what you end up with is bizarre questions like, is it better to be attracted to the secondary sex characteristics of a transsexual Megan Fox, which is what he's talking about, or to primary sex characteristics? Now, the normal teleological answer to Andrew Tate's question is, you have sex with a woman because you can only, if you're a man, marry and produce children with a woman. Right? That was the original answer. When you get rid of that, then you end up in weird Andrew Tate.
All I'm hearing is that Ben Shapiro would rather fuck Hulk Hogan. That's all I'm hearing here. Let's be honest, okay? That's all I'm hearing. So, I guess God bless, but not me.
World where he's talking about moving aside male appendages in order to have sex with transsexuals. Right? You end up in a very chaotic place. And you can see this in what Andrew Tate says very often. It's kind of fascinating. When you see that Andrew Tate is operating in a context where the teleology of sex no longer applies, but he is still attempting to apply the old rules, he sounds alternatively to feminists, sexist, and to other people, fetishistic. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into riots in France. We'll be getting into the question of who actually bombed the...
Wow, that was the worst watch I've ever had in my life.
I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.